if showing up online has started to feel exhausting, this is probably why. Before you get ahead of yourself, it has nothing to do with, am I lazy? Am I simply unable to be consistent? Or do I just lack discipline? No, 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 no. Something else is going on. And I want to give you a little bit of context. So last week, I actually sent out this survey to my email list community, and I was asking them, what feels the hardest about staying consistent in their content and the method that they've used to be visible, to market themselves? And one of the responses that I got back was talking about how exposing it feels to have to show up consistently in content. And essentially, the way that I understand that point is not always wanting to have to be visible or always feeling that pressure to show up, to create, almost like a forced creativity, if you will, or even that feeling of not always wanting to be on. And maybe even it shows up as that thought of, do I really have to keep doing this forever? And this is where a lot of people, I think, start to think about this the wrong way, where you might see someone or you may yourself have this thought and think, okay, this is a problem with how I show up, when in reality, it's really an issue of the model that you are using in order to promote your business. Because if you had a visibility model that you are using to market your business, and it's literally requiring too much of you, whether it's just in this specific phase based on what you have going on in life, that is the actual core issue, not the fact of, can I be consistent? Now, let me really go into why only focusing on consistency alone tends to push you down the wrong track. If your growth in your business depends on you, right? You have to show up, you have to create more, you have to film more, you have to put more out there. That means that whenever you aren't able to create, whenever you need a break, that everything else is going to stop simply because you stopped. That means that all of the momentum that you have built up and worked for stops and even goes backwards the moment that you're not able to continue on. That means that when you come back, when you start to re-engage, it literally starts to feel like you are starting over. Maybe not from zero, but you're starting at a point that you've already passed before. And there's no wonder in my mind why that would feel draining. And I could also see how it can just feel really inconsistent and why it is something that is almost hard to make what you're doing long lasting, because let's be honest, it just doesn't really give room for life. It doesn't give room for our humanness to happen, because let's face it, we're not machines. Even though sometimes the way that we'd like to think of things, it's very methodical, like rhythmic almost, but it doesn't really give you space in order to have the pause, the rest that you might be needing, or that this phase of your life might be needing. And I think that a lot of the way that people are taught about how to show up, how to grow their business, is that there is this direct correlation between, hey, make more content. More content equals more growth. When you have more growth, you're going to get seen by more people. When you get seen by more people, you're going to get more clients. And so inevitably, there's this inherent belief that's associated with it that, okay, because of that, my growth, my business's growth, my business success depends on me constantly needing to show up. That is not a strategy. That is something that is literally creating a point of failure for you, because no one can show up like that all the time, even if maybe that is the way that you would love to do it. But I know for a lot of people in my audience, honestly, that's not how they would love to do it. That's just the way that they have been shown how to do it. So instead of thinking, how do I post more? How do I be more consistent? How do I really carry it through the next time? What I would like you to start asking yourself is, what needs to be in place in my business so that I don't have to just post more? What needs to exist in my business so that I don't just have to be more consistent? What needs to be in place so that my business isn't solely dependent on me? I am a firm believer that if you need to take a break, that should not mean that your momentum inevitably disappears, and you coming back should not have to feel like you starting over. And you might be wondering, okay, what does this look like? Here are some questions I just want to throw out there for you to ponder. What if your content didn't disappear after you posted it? What if it was able to continue working for you? It was able to continue reaching new people? What if your growth didn't depend on how you felt that day and whether or not you showed up? This is literally the way that I think about how you show up, how you grow visibility, how you grow your audience, is that how can we start getting the content that you've already created to keep working? How can you make sure that the eyeballs you already have, that they can still get seen? How do you make sure that the valuable assets that you already have continue to be seen by new people? How can we make sure that you don't have to start from scratch every single time? This is going to take the pressure off of the need or the feeling like you have to be consistent. And the reason that I know without a shadow of a doubt that this is possible is because ever since having my kids, on paper, I am not consistent. I am consistent with certain aspects, but not consistent in the traditional way of, do you post 5 times a day? Do you show up in your stories every day? I don't do that. And honestly, I have been able to see my business compound growth without doing that. And I wish I would have known this before, because there was so much pressure that I used to put on myself to show up, to do that. And my measure for compound growth is growth of email list subscribers, the way that they engage, responses back, being able to get people into passive offers that I have. They opt into a freebie and then they choose to purchase. All of this. I know that in the past, if you would have told me that that would be possible without posting 5 times a day and showing up in my stories, I wouldn't have believed it, and it created so much pressure. So this is really a, hey, there is a way to do that without you having to have all of that pressure. So listen up. This is what I want you to pay attention to. I want you to think about the content that you've already created, assets you've already created. That could be masterclasses, workshops, anything that is literally your IP. What has worked really well? Now, your measure for what has worked is going to be the stats. How many people either converted from it, or responses you got back from the people who have literally consumed that content. And once you start paying attention to this, I want you to then think about, what do you need to have in place in order to make sure that this is seen by more people? Because when you start to shift and when you start to think that way and allow your content to consistently compound, to allow your visibility to continue even without you having to do more, that is when everything starts to shift. So instead of asking yourself, okay, what should I be posting today? I want you to think about, what have you already created that can literally keep working for you? What if you don't necessarily need to create more right now, but you just need to use what you already have a little bit better? Just this shift around how you think about consistency, how you think about what actually is triggering growth in your business, will change everything, because you stop wondering, what exactly do I need to do? And it becomes more of, okay, wait, why am I actually doing this? And is there a better way for me to achieve the same goal? I'll be breaking down how this works soon, because there are a few key pieces that I've noticed that people tend to miss when they're making this shift. Now, if this resonated with you, I would actually love to hear what's been the hardest for you right now when it comes to being consistent in your content. I'll go ahead and link that 1 question survey in the show notes. Until then, stay savvy, and I'll see you next time.